During one of the latest trailers for the upcoming game The 7 Deadly Sins Knights of Britannia, we caught a quick glimpse of the full roster that will be available, as well as a few gameplay clips for some of the characters that will be in the game. My name's Globko, and today we're looking at the full roster for Knights of Britannia. In this video, I'm going to assume that you've watched the first season of the 7 Deadly Sins. I won't go out of my way to spoil anything, but I'm going to need to mention some things here and there. And looking at the trailers, this game does seem to be very focused on the first season of the anime, with one little exception that we'll mention at the end of the video, but it's not too spoilery, so if you've watched season 1, you're good. Before we even jump into the specific characters, here's the entire character selection screen. You might notice that there are some colored icons next to each character, and that's to signify the type of character they are. In red, we have the power types, in green, we have the speed types, and in purple, we have the magic types. I believe the character types are pretty self-explanatory, though some of the types they chose for some specific characters actually surprised me a little bit, but will withhold any judgment until we actually get to play them. Also, it seems that you'll be able to do some light customization, and that's what the 3 empty slots are right there in the middle of the screen. But that's maybe a subject for a future video. Alright, jumping into this character selection screen, the first character is the main character of the show, Meliodas. He doesn't just take one character slot, he takes 2 more at the bottom. The first one is Meliodas as he was in the beginning of the series, fighting mostly with his fists, but also with his broken sword, and in this game he's a speed type character. Then, at the bottom, he switches to a magic type character, and you can see from his portrait that his demon powers have taken over. I believe this is the version that we see during the Visel Fight Festival. And finally, the third version is after Meliodas loses his broken sword but recovers his normal sword, and he is once again a speed type character. Next we have Diane, but not regular Diane. You see, this is a fighting game and having a giant character would be a little bit awkward, but while we see giant Diane playable in certain portions of the trailers, I believe that is only for story mode, because if you go into duel mode and pick Diane from this character selection screen, you'll see a smaller version of her using Elizabeth's clothes. Fans of the show already know what this means. This is the version of Diane that shows up once again during the Visel Fight Festival after being shrunk by a mushroom in the forest. The next characters are pretty self-explanatory. They're the rest of the Sins that show up during the first season. We have Bon as a speed type character, King as a magic type character, Gil Thunder as a speed type character, and finally Merlin, obviously, as a magic type character. After that, we have the only character slot that hasn't been revealed yet. We'll leave this one to the end of the video, not only because I think we'll get a little bit spoilery with it, but also because I think we'll be guessing with no confirmed information, though at the same time I do think there's enough information in the trailers to make a pretty educated guess. And closing the top row, we have Hawk, the talking pig, as a speed type character, and judging from the gameplay, he is pretty fast, and he also seems to be the joke character of this entire roster. Moving on to the second row, we start with Arthur Pendragon, King of Camelot, as a speed type character. And then finally we start having some Holy Knights in there. The first one had a pretty short-lived presence in the show. He's Twigo, listed as a power type. We had seen him before in screenshots, so we knew he was coming, but given how weak he ended up being in the show, I'm a bit surprised he made it to the roster. I would actually love to know your guys' opinion on this. Who do you think is the biggest joke character of this roster? Twigo or Hawk? Let me know in the comments. Then we have Gil Thunder, obviously as a speed type. With his lightning abilities, I wouldn't expect anything else. Followed by Jericho, and this seems to be the version of Jericho after drinking the demon blood, not the one that got defeated so easily by Ben when he broke out of prison. During the trailer, we do see the demon blood taking over her body and she transforms into sort of a giant, but again, this seems to be something exclusive to story mode. Then we have Willow using her spear, which seems to be the weapon she takes into every real battle, despite her always hanging around with the rapier. She's a speed type as well. After that, we have Griamor, the Holy Knight who protects Princess Veronica at all costs. He's a power type, which seems alright. I guess we never really seen him fight a lot, but his body does seem built for power and not speed. But really, all we see from him is him creating these really strong barriers, either around himself or his enemies or his allies. So I'm curious to see how this guy is gonna play. After that, we have Hauser as a speed type. He's that Holy Knight that falls in love with Diane and has control over wind, being able to create some massive tornadoes. And closing the second row, we have Hellbrunn, both in his knight form that he maintains through most of the first season, and then his original form that he reveals at the end. And both are magic types, which seems fitting since he was always attacking with different elements, given his power to borrow strength from other Holy Knights. Finally, moving on to the last row of characters, we start with Slater, who is listed as a power type. Slater has always showed up in the anime as part of a team, so it will be interesting to see how he plays on his own. And then we have some great Holy Knights, starting with Dreyfus as a power type. I mean, he's super fast, so this one surprised me a little bit. As well as Hendrickson, also as a speed type. Hendrickson doesn't only take one character slot though, just like Mellie Otis, he takes up 3 slots, with his second form showing some demon blood taking over his body, and his final form is the ash gray form, which we see at the end of the season. And Hendrickson with these 3 forms actually covers all 3 character types, going from a speed type in the original to a power type in the second form, and finally a magic type in the final form. Then we have Mellie Otis again, but we already talked about him. And finally, this seems to be the only character that doesn't show up during season 1, and his name is Zeldris, and he will show up in the second season of the 7 Deadly Sins coming January next year. So it's not really worth getting into who this character is. If you've read the manga, just don't be a jerk and spoil it in the comments, because for those that just like following the anime, just know that, hey, this is a character that's going to show up in the second season. You don't need to know anything else. Since the game comes out in January and the second season of 7 Deadly Sins comes out in January as well, I guess Bandai Namco wanted to have something from the second season in the game. They seem to cover at least a little bit of story from the second season according to the trailer, but I don't think we'll see too much. And the reason for that is, if they wanted to do more second season, they would probably need some more characters. Zeldris would probably not be enough. But it is important for you guys to know that, hey, second season stuff might be in this, because it actually affects the final character slot. The one that we haven't talked about yet, the mystery, the unconfirmed character. Who is this? So I believe we have 2 options here. One, it's either Elizabeth, and not because we see her on a little mission where she's picking up stuff during story mode. No, it's because, and here's a bigger spoiler for season 1, it's because we see her awakening her true powers, just like she does at the end of the first season. Now, even though Elizabeth becomes very powerful, she's not really the fighting type, so it might not fit with her being in the roster. Instead, it might be the final deadly sin, Escanor. And we do see Escanor a couple of times during this trailer. Never in gameplay, he's always in a cutscene, so it's hard to confirm anything at this point. But since they're diving into season 2, he could be the final unlockable character in this game, and that's why he doesn't show up in this character selection screen. Also, as a pre-order bonus, you can get some fancy suits to use in duel mode. And we can see that all the 7 Deadly Sins have those suits, including Escanor. Now, why would he have a suit if he wasn't a playable character? And that brings us to the full roster. I would love to know what you guys think of this character selection. Did they miss one of your favorites? Or if not, who do you want to try out first? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And now that every anime game is getting into character creation, do you think Knights of Britannia would be a good fit for it? Watch this video with my thoughts on the subject and then let me know in the comments. If you want to watch something else, there's also the video at the bottom, but as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!